Welcome to the course on critical thinking skills in science. We're on chapter 5, Man's Origin, session number 4. God's plan for man. Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 4 and 5. Now Yahweh's word came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I have appointed you a prophet to the nations. God's plan for His people and for us begins before birth. God has a plan for us. God has a purpose for us, which means God knows us personally before we're even born, which means we have a personhood before we're born. And that is the difference between those of evolutionary thought that justify the abortion issue, in that when you abort a fetus before it has developed long enough or far enough to become a person, then you are not aborting a person, you're aborting a life, but not a person. So that's why sometimes if we go pro-life, they would say, if you're pro-life, then you should be against the killing of cattle to eat hamburgers or whatever. And so it's like, we're not just pro-life, we are pro-personhood, in that we have a personhood before we are born, because God has consecrated us to complete some part of His will. Before Jeremiah was born, he was known by God. Jeremiah had a personal mission to accomplish, to fulfill, meaning before he was born, he was a person created to complete a specific purpose. In the evolutionary thinking is that we don't get personal rights. We don't have personality or personhood until we reach a certain cognitive level. And therefore, abortion could be practiced up till that level of whatever it is of designating personhood. But what that also can mean is that after we have gained personhood and the rights, human rights, we can lose those rights if we lose personhood, because we lose a certain cognitive level. That is the basic requirement for personhood. So it's not a battle of life, pro-life or against life, but it's actually personhood. And that when do we become a person? And biblically, we become a person before we are born. Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14. For you formed my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. My soul knows that very well. Psalm 139, verses 15, 16. My frame wasn't hidden from you when I was made in secret, woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my body. In your book they were all written, the days that were ordained for me, when as yet there were none of them. There's a debate going on within some circles, theological circles, in that if man has free will, then God cannot foreordain the future. And therefore, in their theology, God does not know the future, because the future has not been decided yet, because man has not exercised the options of his free will. Now, I believe that man does have free will, but God knows. And the days are ordained. And so, in other words, before we were born, your eyes saw my body. In your book, they were all written. The days that were ordained for me, when as yet there were none of them. God has a plan for us. How does that fit into our free will? I don't understand the balances of it, but I understand from my perspective, I have a free will every day to choose who I'm going to serve. Does God know that? Did God know that? I believe God knows that and knew that, and that my days are also ordained. Ephesians 2:10, for we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus. Why? For good works, which God prepared before that we should walk in them. We don't have to invent ways to serve God. God has already created us to serve a purpose, and He has that purpose in mind. He has that purpose already planned out. We don't have to figure out or think that we're just in a bunch of chaos. God has a purpose and a plan for me and for you, for each one of us. We aren't wandering aimlessly if we seek the Lord, for we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared for beforehand that we should walk in them. Man was originally created to have fellowship with God, his Creator. That was the original plan. But then something went wrong, and man has been trying ever since to understand the problem and correct it. But without understanding what actually went wrong, it would be really difficult to come up with the correct solution. That's where we're at today. The world knows there's something wrong. And so there's a lot of systems that are trying to come up with the solution. But they'll never come up with the right solution if they don't understand the original problem. Man's original condition. Genesis 1:31. God saw everything He had made, and behold, it was very good. There was evening, there was morning, a sixth day. So what was the original creation like? In the original creation, everything was very good. That means that there were not any influences that could bring upon the world suffering or death or disease. These are things that entered in later. God cannot be accused of being a poor creator because of the creation that we observe today. The creation we observe today is not the creation that He originally created. Psalms chapter 8, verses 3 through 5. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you even think of him? You know, and that's amazing. You go outside and you just look at the vastness of the universe and just see the stars out there twinkling and see comets or falling stars. See the moon going through different phases. It's just awesome. And to know and believe that God created that, and that system obeys His rules and laws. That's why it's very ordered. That's where the word cosmos comes from. The word cosmos means ordered. And so those that use the term cosmos, even Carl Sagan, as he did, what he's promoting is that the universe is ordered. And it is order, and to be ordered is to serve a purpose. And that purpose was to serve man, to serve God's purpose in man being in dominion over what He has created. What is man that you should think of him, or that you think of him? What is the Son of Man that you care for him? For you have made him a little lower than the angels and crowned him with a big mind, a big brain. No, that's not what it means. And crowned him with glory and honor. Glory, because he's the pinnacle of the creation, the physical creation of which God made. God made man the last day, and God made man to have dominion over everything else created, everything else on earth, and that man is entrusted with that dominion. It's not a dominion to just take out and to abuse and to destroy, but it's a dominion to care for the Creator. We have been given that purpose, is to care for what God has created. This is session 4, ending session 4 of chapter 5, Man's Origin. And we're stepping through and setting the stage, beginning with the cultural perspective, beginning with our source of reliable knowledge, and now putting together man's origin. What is he? And man was created perfect. Man was created to have dominion. Man was created, but then something happened. And what is it that happened? And that's what we're going to see in the next sessions. Thank you for joining me. Again, this is chapter 5, session 4 that we have terminated, and just hope that you be with us in the next one.